At this point, we will transition over to our very exciting roundtable. I'm going to invite Joe Dalton, who's the CMO for PivotLink. They're also our sponsor today. I'd like to thank Joe for joining today's panel. Charles Schweiger, who's a business analyst with retailer Timbuktu Designs. Welcome, Charles. And then Katy Merritt, who's the point-of-sale account analyst at Carhartt, another retail end user. So welcome all.
Thank you.
My first question to the panelists, and this is for all panelists essentially, the first question is, during the last 5 years, data sources about consumer behavior, such as social, sentiment, reviews, etc., are now routinely available. How does your organization think about how to gain insights about your customers from these data sources, either now or in the future? And we're going to start with Charles.
Well, we've looked at social, given our very meager advertising budget, as a fantastic way to really engage the consumer and hopefully do so with the ultimate goal of creating kind of a brand ambassador out of each of our happy customers. We routinely engage them online in contests to name new product. We really view social. We have active Facebook, Twitter accounts. We've recently employed a full-time online community manager to really act as the mediator for those platforms. And we're really trying to use that to both keep a finger on the pulse of our consumer base, as well as to help that drive product insight. A good example of that is that we've had overwhelming online requests for a product that can act as kind of a covert diaper bag for new parents. And in a lot of cases, men who don't want to be carrying a very obvious diaper bag use our classic messenger bag. So we took that to the product development team, who worked to produce a dedicated bag, very functional on the inside, but with the outward appearance of being our classic messenger bag. So we really use social to drive a number of things in our company. One, product development, and two, to really use that as kind of almost like a free advertising platform. And we'll continue to do that in the future. And really, our challenge really lies in helping to share and disseminate the information garnered from those platforms across all channels. In a lot of cases, we're still dealing with the traditional challenge of siloed information. And to be able to help share information garnered from our social platforms and really use that to our other retailers' advantage is going to be an ongoing challenge, and one I look forward to tackling in 2012.
Yeah, I think those are great insights. Thank you, Charles. I think what you really brought to fore is how your organization is trying to leverage deep consumer insights. I mean, the example that you gave of men who are not comfortable carrying a certain kind of bag in their situation of having kids or otherwise. But I think that's a pretty stark example. Joe, what are your thoughts on this particular question of what data sources are routinely available, but which ones are truly utilized by organizations, and which ones actually are of value?
Yeah, thanks, Sahir. We have as a supplier of analytic technology and business intelligence technology, we have this perspective of serving a number of customers, right? So we get a pretty good view across our 70, 80 customers, retail customers who use our analytics, and really the ask is for what we're talking about now, right? How do we include other data sources to sort of add to our own internal data to make our analytics and our insights just that much more robust? So Chuck's example of the Facebook, sort of social media feeds. We're getting a lot of requests for that. So as a supplier of technology in a SaaS platform, we feel like we're uniquely positioned to add value there, right? By being able to source data from the social feeds and certainly from things like census, demographic, lifestyle, even weather, economics, politics data. All of that sort of gives you a better picture, really, of why consumers do what they do, right? Was it weather related? Was it an event related? Was it politics? Was it economics? Or, was it just something that you learned, using Chuck's example, that you really hadn't thought of previously, right? So you sort of learn that from the way people are talking about or giving you feedback on whatever it is you're researching, right? So as a vendor, we see our role is to be able to provide alternate data sources, third-party data sources, so that our customers can add that as they see fit.
Great answer, Joe. I think there was a nice vendor perspective as to how you're trying to help companies out there really make sense out of the disparate customer data sources and how to actually apply that into the business. I guess, Katy, if you can also comment on this, from a Carhartt perspective, where do you see how the varied sources of data are panning out for your organization? How are you combining that into one view of the customer?
Well, like Chuck and Joe mentioned, Carhartt also uses social media or Facebook. Currently, we have 1.5 million friends on Facebook, and we use their likes and dislikes to take back to our product team. We also have a section on our website that allows the consumer to go in and give us their story. They can go in and tell us anything about any product that they have. We have a lot that say, we had one that said they were in a motorcycle accident, and had they not had this Carhartt jacket on, they probably would have scratched their arms up because the jacket is so tough. Certain insights like that. We have also brought in a customer insights department that goes through the focus groups. They actually take a group of people and do job site visits. So we can get a person-to-person live view of the Carhartt product again, and it allows us to bring it back in-house, discuss it with product, discuss it with marketing, in addition to the sales department, and allows us to grow our business.
Great point. And I think that brings us to the next question, which I'm going to ask Katy to take. Katy, in your view, what kind of channel analysis or the omni-channel analysis does Carhartt do today, and how do you see that changing in the future?
Well, currently we do have about 14 accounts right now that send us unit sales and inventory, and through that it allows us to look at different markets from East Coast to West Coast, where we are reviewing the account business by channel, the brick and mortar, the web, the catalog. We get all different varieties of sales. We don't just track the boxes, the brick and mortars. This visibility allows us to work with our accounts better, to understand their assortment and make suggestions. Going forward, we do use this information in collaboration with our product management groups to increase the Carhartt inventory, to allow for better turn and better processing, and just producing the right product for the company, for the customer, excuse me. Just recently, we have added a trade account expert or a channel expert that will split up the region or the United States into several different regions and look at those channels to better serve those areas of the United States. Midwest may sell it better than Southwest or Southeast. So we have put a few steps in place currently within the past couple of months just to be able to serve our customer better.
Great, and I think based on the uniqueness of your organization, obviously that channel strategy, the breaking down of the channels into regions and sub-regions obviously is helpful in terms of taking a more granular approach to the market. I mean, interesting way that's laid out for you. Thanks, Katy, for that. And let me bring in Chuck back into the conversation. Chuck, from your perspective, you mentioned that there is a type of segmentation strategy that you apply, and you really look at shopper insights very closely in your organization. Do you agree that the customer expectation for a personalized shopping experience is putting pressure on retailers such as yourself to develop deeper and segmented consumer insights that are actually actionable for the business groups? I mean, how is your company, Timbuktu, really addressing this challenge right now?
That is something we kind of dove into somewhat unwittingly, given that we were very well known to our consumers through our website, and only later in early 2006 opened our first and still remaining singular retail location here in San Francisco in a little boutique shopping area known as Hayes Valley. And immediately we recognized that our consumers who walked into the store had already been to our website and had the full expectation of being able to customize our product just like they can on our website. And so that really exposed us to the sophistication that consumers have these days, which is the expectation that I should be able to walk into your store and do everything I can on your website. If you don't have this product here in the store, ship it to my house. That is the expectation. And to that end, we serve that quite well. We have a large touchscreen device in our store that allows the consumer to build a custom bag just like they would on our website and have that shipped directly to them. That has been a paramount point of engagement with the consumer, and translating that and scaling that is really our biggest challenge. I would say that in a lot of cases our present rollout strategy is really hampered more by infrastructure and classic IT constraints than it is by big data constraints. Given that we have a singular retail store, it's pretty easy for us to incorporate learnings from our website. So attach rates, when people buy a classic messenger bag, they're also buying an accessory that goes on the strap of the bag. That's a fairly easy insight for us to share with our retail store manager, who can then merchandise the store accordingly. Put the high attach rate products next to the bags that consumers are coming in to initially purchase. So cross-channel integration of consumer buying patterns is fairly straightforward given our very small scale. Rolling that out and making that as transparent to the store manager in Boston, for example, who doesn't have the ability to walk into our headquarters in the Mission District, that is going to be the challenge, and that is where I see cloud-based BI platforms being of great use. Might be getting ahead of myself, but I did have a chat with our retail store manager in preparation for this call, and I simply mentioned, so where do you get most of your information? And how do you put together most of your reports? And he said unequivocally, PivotLink. That is his singular window into how his business is being executed. And that speaks volumes, given that it's web-based. He does not need to be in the office to run those reports. He can be remote, and that is the strength of the cloud. You don't need to be anywhere to run your reports and gain insight into what your business is doing.
Yeah, so that's an interesting IT perspective, and you mentioned e-commerce there and the visibility for your stores in terms of the the results from the different channels. I think that was all great. But I'm going to pose this very same question to Joe. Joe, any perspective there in terms of a quick perspective on what the omni-channel environment is doing to BI and to data?
Well, it certainly has put pressure on us as a supplier of analytics in real time. Chuck gave a good example of sort of how our customers sort of depend on that kind of information and how they want to consume it. And it's put pressure on us to be able to deliver that really no matter what the endpoint is, right? I mean, so in our business, this is where our investment goes, right? 5 years ago, no one knew what an iPad looked like or even what it was, right? Now, this is the preferred consumption device for analytics at the store manager level, right? So we have to constantly be investing in this so that we understand how our customers want to consume the information and be able to be there sort of when they are, right? So is it tablet? Is it mobile? And certainly it's always going to be on the web. That's how we sort of grew up, and that's our value proposition. But I think as m-commerce and e-commerce and a kind of omni-channel integration really starts to take hold, like Chuck was talking about, our perspective as a supplier of technology is we need to make the right kind of investments so that we're there supporting all of those kinds of devices so people can consume them wherever they want to.
And I think that's interesting on how you spoke about how you've had to shift your strategy as a supplier of solutions, looking at the pressure of omni-channel, the pressure of mobile, the pressure of social, not just on the retailer, but on the supplier of technology. And it's pretty stark admission right there, but it's a good one. Let's hold on to that thought before we move on from this point. I'm just going to ask Katy to comment on the pressure of omni-channel, on data, on BI, and those kind of processes.
Well, being a user, as far as just not on the BI side, one of what we're addressing right now is when we get the data, we're actually looking at last week's data. We don't have real-time data, but we have, and we are in the future opening Carhartt retail stores that will allow us to have the real-time views to Carhartt sales. So that, I think that is the most beneficial, going plan for the future.
Interesting. Okay. Wonderful. So let's move on, folks. We'll take a slightly different turn over here. We'll talk a little bit about the deployment of BI. So my first question is to Chuck. Chuck, can you talk a little bit about how pervasive is BI within your organization?
It is all-encompassing, actually. Our initial foray into BI was really out of necessity. The native reporting out of our ERP system is pretty miserable. It's at the record level, and the overwhelming majority of our business users were not Excel masters by any stretch, and many struggled with even a basic pivot table. And so in many cases, a lot of the business users were basing their decisions on anecdotal evidence as opposed to good, reliable data. And in order to really democratize the data that was siloed in our ERP system, we were really posed with two choices. We could have either done an on-site data warehouse that has a number of downsides. First of all, we'd have to host it, and just for clarity of scope, we outsource anything that is not deemed to be a core competency, HR, legal, IT. We don't even have an on-site IT staff. So an on-site data warehouse was really a bit of a non-starter. So we wanted something that was going to be flexible, that could grow with us, that was going to be platform independent. You didn't have to run a particular operating system to use whatever the basic user interface would be. So if the user interface was Excel, that's not ideal. And we wanted it to be really user-friendly. We wanted someone who didn't have great facility with Excel to be able to run a meaningful report and get to usable information quickly. And so when we did our initial BI implementation, it wasn't to solve a particular issue, or it was not specific to a particular even business unit. We jumped in with both feet and did an integration that services all departments, not just particular sales channels. So I have the CEO sitting next to me running the same report and using the same base data and the same base reports that we've built out that a product development designer could be looking at. It's the same set of reports that our retail store manager is using. BI and our implementation of PivotLink is really a universal. We have every department looking at the same set of reports, customized to their own needs, obviously, but everyone's speaking the same language, which is hugely powerful. You don't have two people walking into a meeting with conflicting reports. Everyone's looking at the same thing. So at this point, we are so intertwined with our usage of BI. We're doing things that simply couldn't be done before. And if we were to take away PivotLink as our BI platform, it would be hugely detrimental at this point. So, universal.
Okay. All right. So that was an interesting perspective there. So, Joe, on that note, I'm going to turn a question over to you about a trend that the industry analysts, solution providers like yourself, enterprise players as well as retailers and CIOs have been talking about for some time is, when does the SaaS and the more lean BI delivery models get relevant? Are they already relevant? And if they are relevant, what implications are there for the private and public cloud when it comes to the role of BI? So if you can just give me both sides of the viewpoint, which you believe in and what you think might be different from a industry perspective.
Sure. Well, I think that it's clearly already relevant for BI. I think BI is and analytic applications are actually a really good example of the kind of improvement that a SaaS delivery model can bring, right? I think there's a few great examples of that. I think what Salesforce has done for CRM is a very good example. I think what companies like us have done for BI is another great example. And the reason is it's just we can easily lower the ROI we can improve the ROI equation very well. Just all the things that Chuck mentioned about what sort of would be non-starters to an investment like that. I mean, I think BI specifically, delivering it through a SaaS model makes it easier to purchase, easier to implement, easier to use, and easier to maintain. And if you add all that up, at the end of the day, it just makes the ROI calculation so much easier. I frankly don't. I see much more adoption. I think even on one of your charts, Sahir, you saw it. The projected adoption of SaaS BI to triple. So to go from 14% and adding another 28%. So I thought that was interesting, and we're certainly seeing that in our customer base and in our prospect base. We're certainly seeing, I would say, in the last 12, 18 months, the acceptance of BI and all the security that we have to do as a SAS 70 certified supplier. I think retailers now, customers now, they're very comfortable with the security model of the SaaS delivery option, and it's just so much easier investment proposition for them that I don't see us going back to the on-premises world really in our lifetime.
Very interesting. So you kind of took a very balanced approach there of detailing what's the upside and what could be the potential sort of challenge there from a SaaS and cloud perspective when it comes to the delivery of applications like business intelligence. I think that was a very nice perspective. Thanks, Joe. I would encourage the audience if you've got any questions if you want me to pose in real time to Joe and to the retailers that we have with us today, feel free to use the chat window or the question window on your screen and send us a question or two. Happy to ask that question on your behalf. So taking another question that's come in, are you tracking, this is both for Katy and Chuck. I'm going to start with Katy. Katy, if you can talk a little bit about the tracking of ROI from BI investments. Well, we find that more and more retailers either don't like to talk about that or they're not measuring the ROI. What's your take on that? Are you guys measuring the ROI? And if so, in what areas have you seen the results?
We're not, we're not measuring the ROI as much as we should as far as the retail space is concerned. But for those that do, some of our Northeast department stores really think that is a key metric that needs to be in place. But we are working close with the accounts just to secure the retail property and suggesting assortment changes and using PivotLink as a tool. It does allow us to very quickly pull this information, like Chuck was saying earlier, having to use Excel as a tool is very cumbersome, but being able to pull it up in PivotLink and show it to them on the spot is one of the greatest tools we could have.
Great. Chuck, how about yourself? Are you going to share some numbers with us in terms of tracking ROI? Is there anything that we can take away from an ROI perspective?
I wish I could, but again, I had a little chat with our CFO in preparation for this call and posed that same question, and he said, where would you start? Given the pervasiveness of our use of PivotLink, any measurement would be incomplete. We are doing things with inventory management, for example, that have helped us give visibility to various sales channels of future inventory availability that allows us to take orders with a great degree of confidence for a specific quantity of goods on a delivery date in the future and have a very, very high confidence interval around being able to actually fulfill that order on time. Before our implementation, the most granular level of inventory availability was at the end of month level. So we went from inventory by month to inventory, end of inventory position by day. Hugely transformative to our ability to take sales and deliver on time. And that's just one little piece of how we found value in PivotLink that says nothing about driving product development insights based on being able to do very readily, very, very simple, but were previously unattainable reports of multi-year sales for product by region, by customer, and allowing our product development team to really dive into data at will that previously was the domain of a single person whose sole job was to run what we called the blueprint in Excel. So any attempt at measuring ROI would simply not be robust enough to capture all the value that's been added.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of interesting points that you made. And for me personally, I think that's worth researching further, where companies are finding ROI. But essentially, you mentioned the inventory lag time, or the ability to really assess the inventory situation from a turnover standpoint or from a cost of goods sold point. You also mentioned product lifecycle management, or the product development management side of things, so the PDM side of things, and how that's impacted. What about Chuck? Is there anything that you can share with the audience before I move to the final question for this panel about the customer results of BI? So where have you seen the customer impact besides inventory and related areas? Where have you seen a customer impact?
Well, I'll give you a good example, not with our own retail store, but with our wholesale business. So we have 7 different channels of business, one of which is our website. We also work with various online partners for whom we drop ship, like e-bags, online shoes, various other web retailers. We have a report that aggregates all that information into kind of a high-level report, but basically shows product, sales by region. But given the granularity of the data, we can actually show what product is being shipped into a particular zip code. So what that allows our external sales force to do is to be able to speak to, when they visit one of the retailers that carries Timbuktu in their region, they're able to walk in and show that buyer where the gaps are in their assortment. They're able to walk in, show what they have on order, what their recent order history is, and then present what actual consumers in their area are demanding and identify gaps in assortment. And that's been hugely compelling for both acquisition of new retailers as well as adding value to those retailers that already carry our product. And we've had excellent feedback from the field based upon that. And that's just one of many insights that we're able to take from different channels and help really feed that across through to other sales channels. And that's been, like I said, extremely well received.
No, that's great. To identify assortment gaps, I mean, that's really the core of retailing, right, where so many companies get it wrong when it comes to the assortment mix. And that's primarily, it's not to blame the buyers or the category managers. The buyers know which products would rank the top 5 or the top 10. But besides that, you need a heavy focus on analytics, consumer analytics, to really understand what's happening on the shelf, what's moving and what's not moving, so adjustments can be made. And you make a very, very important point. That's where a lot of large retailers struggle, right, on that strategy, is they cannot replan, reforecast when it comes to simple decisions that buyers make, and associated challenges with bringing in a precision element when it comes to the assortment mix. Great point. Thank you so much for sharing that. My full and final point of questioning is really for Joe. And Joe, we don't have much time, but you have at least a minute or so. If you can talk a little bit about the growth of, what is the perfect model for predicting customer behavior in these times when we're looking at, targeted promotions, targeted pricing, precision merchandising, the growth of online and mobile, along with social. What are we looking at in terms of that perfect model to predict customer behavior? Is there such a model out there?
Well, it's a good question, and there probably isn't. But I think that we're all learning much more about being more sophisticated around this question than we were a few years ago. I think the reason for that is, we're all trying, our customers are asking us to help them not just with the what did customers buy, which we do very well, right? That's sort of what I call core analytics. But then there's the question about turning that lens around to the future and say what's going to happen, and then why is it going to happen? So now we have this other dimension of not just what our customers are going to do or most likely do, but why are they going to do it? What is it that sort of influences that buying decision? And I think that we're all of us, us as a supplier of technology, and certainly our customers, are sort of doing this, learning about this together as sort of a partnership, because a lot of it is the kind of data that we can collect, certainly the social feeds, certainly the life event feeds, the demographic feeds, weather, politics. We talked about that previously. But I think it's sort of measuring. I think it's sort of measuring that, working backwards from all those data sources into what are the handful of things that, frankly, we can react to and we can do something about that tell us two things: what our customers are most likely to do, and why would they make that decision. If we know those things, we're able to sort of change our assortments or change our product design, as we heard today, or do things that we have control over to sort of influence, really sort of bring up our customer loyalty, our customer satisfaction, and improve really the retail performance metric in total, right? So I think it is a journey, Sahir. I don't think there's a perfect model, but I also see a lot of attention on this from our customers and certainly from ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Joe. Thank you for being candid there. Folks, it was a pleasure to moderate this session. Sorry we went over by a few minutes, but I wanted to provide value. We also started maybe 3-4 minutes after the hour so that everybody could join in. So just a couple of minutes over. Do want to summarize today's webinar. We started the journey by talking about the retailers' challenges as far as the big data problem or the IT problems associated with data cohesion and data analytics, both from a customer-facing standpoint or customer-related BI and business-related BI. The time-to-information concept and the real-time concept, we discussed all of those areas. We also talked about the top strategy that is addressing the need for greater focus on BI, which is all about consumer insights. I think this webinar was dedicated to shopper insights and consumer insights. Then we had a very interesting panel discussion. The highlight from Chuck was the ROI point that he made around the use of BI in terms of inventory optimization, inventory views across his enterprise, the power that the buyers have now in looking at granular store data in terms of their buying decisions in quick time, and the fact that it was also supporting Timbuktu's product development strategy and PLM strategy, whatever you want to call it. And then the highlight from Katy was really talking about their channel strategy. I think she spoke at length about the channel strategy and how BI is impacting their business from a channel standpoint. And then Joe gave us some candid views on the solution provider's viewpoint, and I must say that he was quite balanced in suggesting that BI from a SaaS standpoint is not an answer for everyone when it comes to the ideal deployment model or the perfect model of BI. But what he did say is that with certain requirements put into place, BI has to be an enterprise-wide strategy. And I will say that according to my research, my understanding of retail, the 15-odd years that I've spent in retail, I think that's accurate. I think BI needs to be integrated into the retail value chain and has to have an enterprise-wide look and feel. Otherwise, the value of BI is diminished. And as far as the deployment model, SaaS and cloud might not be for everyone, but it's worth considering in terms of total cost of ownership and time to deployment related benefits. And then one has to also think about the question around how do you consolidate the varied applications that you already have that provide business insights and consumer insights. So how do you consolidate that? So on that long and short note, This is Sahir and Anand signing off. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.